Hey there, it's your Null. Welcome back to another video. We just got the Deepwoken verse 3 direct, and there's a lot to talk about. This thing had a lot of information, new previews, confirmations, and even some hints about what will happen next in verse 4. I went through everything myself and pulled out all the most important things you need to know instead of sitting through 2.5 hours of dev talk and question dodging. So sit back, relax, and have a snack or something. We're going to talk about everything that Deepwoken verse 3 revealed. And trust me, there's a lot here that will blow your mind. Oh, and before we start, I want to let you know that only about 20% of you who are watching right now are actually subscribed. It's free, you can always change your mind later, and it really helps the channel. Okay, let's get started. The biggest news is that the Chef Oath is officially being worked on. Not coming later, not planned for verse 4, but actually being worked on right now. Agematsu himself said it. He's working on the Chef Oath right now. So that one guy who keeps asking, where's the Chef Oath under every Deepwoken video? This is your time. You finally won. I'm really surprised it's real because the Chef Oath had become a meme by this point. People didn't think it would ever happen, but here we are. The Deepwoken cooking arc is real. Next, we have some strange news about Raguzer. If you've been following Deepwoken for a while, you know he's one of the main developers. Lately, though, he's been working on Curse Gear and a few other games on the side. He acknowledged during the direct that he sort of let the team hang for a while, which led to some leadership problems. The good news, though, he has returned. Deepwoken is once again Raguzer's primary focus. The fact that updates hit differently when he's involved is enough to give me hope. This is where the interesting part begins. The developers gave a brief overview of verse 4 and revealed a major spoiler: the Central Luminant. Since the Central Luminant is essentially the center of the world, this is enormous. The Central Authority, the large, enigmatic force that has always hovered over the narrative, is based there. This suggests that we may finally get to meet Drowser, the leader of the Central Authority, about whom rumors have been circulating for years. We may finally see him in verse 4, but no one is even sure that he's real. To be honest, though, the Lullaby Isles drew my attention even more. The Chryscids live there along with their queen, the Lady Confessor, who's characterized as a sort of religious prophet who also doubles as a dictator. Imagine having to defeat a cult leader who has been brainwashing an entire island in a boss fight. Deepwoken excels at that kind of work. If you thought that was crazy, they also suggested that the Etrian War arc might finally begin after the Central Authority broke through the Etrian Luminant. This war has always been hinted at, for example in the dialogue with Maestro Evengard. He expressly states that he will require powerful allies in the event that the Lord Regent is overthrown. Then the invasion by the Central Authority starts. A full-scale global event with armies fighting, cities on fire, and possibly even Drowser himself appearing on the battlefield. We might actually see. If they succeed, it might be the largest update Deepwoken has ever seen. They even hinted at the possibility of an alternate conclusion in which the Authority truly prevails in the current Etrian Raid event. That alone demonstrates that the developers are working toward a more dynamic narrative in which the outcomes vary based on external events. Moving on, they stated in verse 4 that the Summer Company origin will probably occur after verse 3. According to the lore, the Summer Company is one of the most technologically advanced factions in the game. While they may not have as many soldiers as the Central Authority, their technology is unparalleled. There will be a ton of new gameplay options if that is eventually made an origin. Think of devices that fit their engineering themes such as weapons, gadgets, and possibly even mechanical companions. Regrettably, not all of the news was great. The developers confirmed that the Void Sea and Void Tower content will not be included in this update. Yes, it's awful, but verse 4 is looking to be really big because they mentioned that those features will be available around the same time as the Central Luminant. Since that kind of content defines entire arcs in Deepwoken, I would much rather they take their time and get it right. Now let's talk about the actual content of verse 3. The new sneaks we have are insane. Racial differences come first. Essentially, racial progressions that cause your character to change over time. These pincers and new visuals are part of the leaked Vesperian divergence. The way that surviving longer unlocked new passives and abilities is reminiscent of Rogue Lineage's racial upgrades. This time, it's more than just statistics. It changes the perception of your race. So as you progress, we're talking about visual evolution.
That's a big immersion win. Then a real dragon was leaked, which you most likely saw. The elemental dragons that fly across the map give it a Breath of the Wild-like appearance. There's a remote possibility that this has something to do with the World Serpent rework they mentioned, but I seriously doubt it. The serpent is supposedly a water boss, but the dragon is in the air. The model looks crazy in any case, and I'm all for it if it's a new global phenomenon. Additionally, we have a rough map of Layer 3, which appears to be an open-world lair rather than a dungeon. It features areas like Coral Fiend's Garden, the City of Flames, and the following steps. The developers confirmed that there won't be a dungeon transition like Layer 2, so you can go there straight from the overworld. We'll see, but my suspicion is that the entrance may be near Miner's Landing. They also mentioned a second Great Hive tree and the Hive Origins Final Edition. The part that's crazy? It may have something to do with Lifeweave, a new attunement that draws energy from nature and roots. They even stated that they would like Lifeweave Pass to have life-draining or enemy-grabbing abilities, which sounds both exciting and terrifying. Picture someone stealing your health, landing a huge crit, and rooting you to the ground. Yes, pain is the way of the future for Deepwoken PvP. Additionally, they hinted that the Central Hive might have underground tunnels that connect the Great Hives, resembling a root city. I can already imagine the atmosphere, ancient, luminous, and dark. That is the atmosphere of Deepwoken at its height. Another interesting development is Ceramade Hollow, which draws inspiration from Deep Rock Galactic. In order to make exploring truly dangerous and lucrative once more, they wish to include bosses, deeper mining systems, and resource management mechanisms. Additionally, the bases of all factions are being expanded to the size of Fort Merritt. That is significant because it indicates that the world is at last coming back to life. Although Deepwoken's lore is incredible, it has felt somewhat hollow lately due to an excessive number of weapons and a lack of world building. With a renewed emphasis on story, factions, and environmental depth, this update seems to be returning to its origins. We're getting new weapons, of course. We don't yet know if the new Iron Sing weapon is legendary, but it's likely because it's attunement-based. The War Master Oath follows, and it will be delivered with verse 3 rather than verse 4. It has a direct connection to Jericho, one of the few War Master users we've seen in-game, which makes it intriguing. They suggested that the power of this oath might be associated with a group known as the High Order, which could be based on Lightborn or Celestial forces. That suggests that we may finally discover the real source of power behind the Central Authority, and I adore that. More depth, more lore, and hopefully fewer copy-paste features. Mounts, indeed. They claim to be developing new mounts, such as a lionfish water mount and one that might be owned by the Authority. Ocean combat will never be the same if they allow us to fight while riding it. In actuality, though, it's most likely just quicker transportation between islands. That's still a W, though, because nobody wants to keep spawning boats every 5 minutes. Additionally, Dixariah stated that they are at last refining the old oaths by enhancing engagement, adding lore, and repairing bugs. Linkstrider is one example. Its creator left the development team years ago, so it was essentially never completed. Hearing that they're finally updating it after it's been sitting half-broken and loreless for ages? Yes, it's past due. Additionally, they intend to revamp a few of the underutilized oaths to make them more entertaining and unique. Depth, not just numbers, is exactly what the game needs right now. Now for the part I'm most excited about, the Iron Vow. According to them, it's a complete hardcore path with special bosses and interactions that regular players won't encounter. They likened it to Terraria's hardcore mode, which introduces bosses and new enemies exclusively for those runs. Iron Vow builds will be entirely different. They will have distinct strengths and weaknesses, high risk and high reward. That is such a cool idea because it gives seasoned players something new to strive for. I can already see YouTubers participating in Iron Vow-only challenge runs. It's past time Deepwoken included a feature that truly puts dedication and skill to the test. All things considered, verse 3 is looking to be among the most exciting updates Deepwoken has ever seen. It seems like the developers are finally paying attention again, with the Chef Oath, Layer 3, racial differences, and all the lore teasers for the Central Luminant. When gameplay and world building are combined, Deepwoken is at its best. The future appears bright, albeit somewhat frightening, given that verse 4 has already hinted at the Central Authority War Arc, the Summer Company, and the Void Sea content. Deepwoken is going to reach a whole new level if they can fulfill even half of what they hinted at in this direct. That will conclude the video for today. Make sure to subscribe if you liked the breakdown. It's free, and you can always change your mind later. If you want to stay up to date, you can join my Discord channel, which has links in the description. There we constantly discuss lore theories, leaks, and sporadic Deepwoken chaos. Anyway, I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.